Hello and welcome to Nigeria, the Road to 2019, a series of programs where Arise News places the audience and the choice at the heart of our coverage of the upcoming presidential elections. I am Christian Ogodo. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, all the news, comments and analyses that provide unrivaled insight into Nigeria 2019, including will speak to a politician and staunch human rights activist one who is seen as a major critic of the President Buhari administration. He's often been seen raising issues that are likely probing the sainthood of the ruling All Progressives Congress. A very vocal voice in the 8th National Assembly who has added his own voice to several matters arising on the floor of the Senate. Senator Shehu Sani joins us in a moment. Shehu Sani was elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress but defected from the party when he was denied a controversial automatic ticket to return to the Senate. He later joined the People's Redemption Party, PRP, where he's seeking re-election to the Senate. His poetic skills are no doubt intriguing. At the height of alarming defections in the country, his famous poem, The Broom, created a whole lot of controversy, where he was cited as saying, "The broom can only be clean if itself is also clean." He once believed in the APC because he thought it was a platform where all progressives and democratic forces converged to dislodge the PDP and restore good governance and democracy in Nigeria. But I guess his hopes were shattered eventually. A senator representing Kaduna Central Senatorial District of Kaduna State and also the Chairman Senate Committees on Local and Foreign Debt and Vice Chairman Foreign Affairs Committees in the Senate. Once a member of the ruling APC but has since joined the People's Redemption Party where he's seeking re-election into the Senate. Distinguished Senator Shehu Sani joins me now in the studios. Very warm welcome to you and Happy New Year.
Thank you for having me. And
well, nice seeing you. It's like the afro is trimmed down from what I'm saying here. I'm sure the viewers will be wondering.
Well, I just decided to trim it down.
Oh, so I was really right that it's been trimmed down. Is it because of the Herculean political environment right now? The kind of, roller coaster situation you faced or topsy-turvy?
No, the afro is making me becoming so a target wherever I go. So I decided to reduce it so that I can move anonymously.
Okay, let's leave that now. Well, it's really not been a roller coaster politicking for you, particularly in the last few months from the APC, where you once stood up to be counted among the RAPC that has now fused with the PDP, and suddenly you find yourself in the PRP. What went wrong?
Well, to your knowledge, we were part of the founding fathers of the All Progressive Congress, and the reasons for establishing that party was informed by the need to disestablish the wreckage, the tragedy that we faced under the last administration. So there were convergence of forces from different tendencies and different political interests and persuasions. But in the last 3 years, the APC was unable to forge itself as a viable political party that should address the issues that confronts the Nigerian state. And internal wranglings, crises, suspicions became the emblem of the party, which now catapulted to the defections that came in July. I was among those who plotted to defect, but I tarried a while in the very sense that I come from a different political constituency, that I need to go along with the tempo and the velocity of thinking of people. So in that respect, I did my consultations. But it is also difficult for me to defect at that very time, because most of those who were defecting to the PDP, where they say it was their home, and it was never my home. I have never been a member of that party. But I shared the idea that we should leave the APC. And I went to my home, which was the PRP, the party that was identified with socialist tendencies and ideology. So right now, I am the flag bearer of the PRP, and I'm very confident I'm going to win my election.
It's like homecoming for you, really, to say, because a lot of Nigerians, know you more as a great human activist, human rights activist who would stand for the people and the rest. But politicking doesn't seem to fit this toga. How would you reconcile, the two masks you wear, one as a human rights activist and the other as a politician?
Well, as a human rights activist, you are driven by a set of principles and ideas, and they become your compass. Those are the veritables that you see and simply pursue. And they also form the crucibles of your own struggle. But as a politician, and specifically that one with a mandate, whatever decision you're going to take, whatever you're going to say, your conduct, your utterances, your submissions must all take cognizance of the people you represent. And it is challenging to metamorphose from an activist to a politician, because it comes with a lot of burden. When you have been in the field of activism for a long time, and you have been an activist that has all along been driven by his conscience and conviction, and then you find yourself in a political environment where you need to make compromises, stoop to a certain level, and then move along. And then you belong to a certain cycle where you have to move along with the thinking of ideas of others. Now, you will get into trouble. And I have gotten into trouble in that respect.
Bigger trouble, particularly in your state with your governor, El-Rufai. You're weather-bitten thoroughly in this game, because you were promised automatic tickets by the president. You were in Daura, the president's hometown. You were at the villa during the RAPC period.
Yes.
What were the assurances given to you, and what went wrong midway?
Well, first of all, my issues with him preceded the issue of automatic ticket. We parted a week after we are sworn into office. So for the last 3.5 years, we have never been on the same frequency.
You've not seen eye to eye?
We have not seen eye to eye, for very reason that, and it is reflective of the whole spirit of the APC. APC is not a communist party where people are driven by a certain dogma. It is a party of people who converge, a concourse of grievances and alliances. Some people came from, yes, some came from the AMPP, ACN, CPC, and all this. So that became part of the problem of the party.
Because the party never came up with any ideology.
Yes. So from the beginning, the party came on the need for us to dislodge the PDP and remove Jonathan.
That was just
And that was achieved. And from that very day, then the party now couldn't come together and work as a political party. Crisis started between the National Assembly and the executive arm of government, and then the party, and then the National Assembly, and then the states, beginning from Kaduna, then it moved to Kano, Bauchi, Rivers, Kogi, and all over.
Why the intolerance?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things. First of all, has to do with the fact that we come from different political background. The APC is a party you can find people from the extreme right, and then those from the extreme left, and that is people, socialist and Marxist elements like me. So we found it difficult to move along. We took over the car, but now the direction of where the car should move became a problem.
It's on reverse.
Yes, so we now have a problem. And then we also have a leadership that was unable to address the internal problems of the party. From Kaduna, with me and the governor of the state, and then to Kano with Ganduje and Kwankwaso, and to Bauchi between the governor and all the three senators, and then to Kogi between Dino and Bello, and then to Rivers, and then most of the states were in crisis. And that reflected in the primary elections, whereby series of protests, even the chairman of INEC has to make a remark that this was one of the most disastrous primaries he has witnessed in the history of Nigeria. So it is reflective that the party couldn't work together because we were not able to forge ourselves and work as a party.
El-Rufai and yourself are, you know, some people may want to describe you guys as egoistic, haughty, and the rest, people with maybe varied ideologies. What really were the departing issues, you know, that culminated in this strained, very strained relationships?
Well, first of all, we differ both politically and ideologically. Politically, he is a product of the establishment. Out of the 16 years of what they said tragedy of the PDP, he spent 15 years or 14 years there as a member. So he was part of the system from Obasanjo, holding different positions, and then he now joined the APC. I have been all my life a freedom fighter and human rights activist. Most of the years under military rule I spent in prison. So from that angle you can see where we departed. And now in Kaduna, when we took over in 2015, he started unfolding some policies that were clearly anti-people, demolishing the houses of people, sacking thousands of people out of their jobs, presiding over the affairs of the state with arrogance, and exploiting his relationship with the president to dump on the people what kind of policies. Then I said, now look, we just took over power, and now we have to understand that these people have labored and suffered for us to be where we are. And if all those things you're doing is simply alienating, he now began to fight not Shehu Sani, he was fighting the traditional rulers, fighting religious leaders, fighting the labor union, the teachers, I mean everybody. So now it has reached a point whereby the main opposition party, the PDP, has now gotten an upper hand. Now also for a governor of a state who came into office with a Muslim and Christian ticket, now in the second term, he is saying that some people don't matter, that he is going to pick from his own, and then this is what we are. So if I don't want to be associated with that kind of person, because all I know with all his arrogance and haughtiness and egoism as a governor, power is ephemeral. There will be a time that we'll be out of this office and will account for whatever we do.
But it doesn't seem that your party, the PRP, has a foothold in Kaduna again. I mean, in the Second Republic, of course, PRP was one of the big parties holding its own around the country. But one can say that as of today, because it doesn't seem as if your party is even going to give the governor a run for his position. Rather, you're tipping the opposition party, the PDP. So is it just a matter of you getting a ticket back to the Senate on that party?
If I wanted to have joined the PDP, I could have done it. But my own kind of politics.
Your friends are there.
Hold on. Yeah, I may have friends, but we may not have the same ideology. You can be friends. But the PRP is not just a platform for people aspiring for political office. If it has been, if it is a platform, it couldn't have survived for 40 years now. It is a body of ideologues, a socialist platform for people to pursue their own ideology.
But socialism and Marxism are things of the past.
Well,
I mean,
well, that is,
even
that is
even from the countries where they originated, they are practicing capitalism now.
Well, that is your own view. But as far as we are concerned, we are very much comfortable with the party we're in. And I believe that it is not for me to tell you what PRP is in Kaduna. All you need to do is to pick a phone call or just move just 2 hours from here, that is Kaduna, and know what is happening. The major threat to the All Progressive Congress in Kaduna now is the PRP, the party I belong. That is why they, every morning and evening, they destroy our billboards, they tear our posters, they are after our members. If we are so inconsequential, they could have ignored us, but they knew that they couldn't. Yes.
Okay, let's bring the issue of the foreign loan that Kaduna State was supposed to have gotten, a loan that's supposed to help, you know, for developmental propagation, infrastructure, and others. It's alleged that you blocked it because you're the chairman Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Loans, to spite the governor of Kaduna State, and that's why he hit back at you too, even though the APC had submitted your name to contest under the party for the senatorial seat. What do you have to say about this?
Okay, well, there are a number of things the governor did to me as a politician. First of all, he tried to frame me in a murder case, which that one failed. Many times, thugs and armed men were sent to attack my office in Kaduna. And then now he also openly advocated that people should unleash violence on us. But unfortunately for him, he doesn't have the clout to tell people to go and do what they don't want to do. Now, coming back to the loan, as a chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign and Local Debt, I have a mandate under the standing order of the Senate to confirm or not to confirm. And I happen to come from the state where this request was made. Kaduna State external debt profile was almost $250 million from 1960 to date. And him alone, he wants to borrow $350 million. And now we are going to have a debt profile of almost about $600 million. For a state with a very low internally generated revenue, a state that is not oil producing, a state where the industry is almost 80% of them have closed down. Now, that is not tenable. Secondly, we can't approve that loan because what he was telling the people, that he was going to construct roads, build schools, hospitals, but all you need to do is to open the website of the World Bank and see the reasons why he applied for that money. It is simply money that will end up with consultants. It's about reforming public institutions. We can't allow such things. The third reason was the fact that I have never received any request from the general public that we should approve that loan. And all that has been is about him. And for a governor that has been receiving monthly federal allocations, for a governor that has been receiving excess crude account, all in millions of dollars, for a governor who has received Paris refund for over $400 million, for a governor who, in every possible way, has been receiving money from the federal government and also boasting that he has generated such billions and billions as IGR. I don't see the reason why I shall append my signature to such a burden that will be on the people of Kaduna State for the next 30 to 40 years. So we have to shut down that request. And he went about insulting us and inciting people against us, but that is not going to change anything. As far as I'm concerned, I am very much satisfied that I will not leave the Senate with a debt burden, which I will leave for the future generations of people from my state.
But you feel bitter that he wielded its own last joker and power to deny you
Yeah,
a
but the
ticket.
question is that can he win? The fact that he is one of the most unpopular governors in the history of Kaduna State. The president has been to Kaduna over 25 times or 15 times, or I don't know how many. But for how many times as a journalist have you seen the president commission project from the state? The first time he went there was to be given a honorary degree from a university that has not started a PhD program. The second time he was in Kaduna State to commission a factory opened by Olam from Singapore. And the third time he was in Kaduna State to open a dry port opened by Federal Ministry of Transport. So he has not done anything. We are going to remove him out of power. That is a fact.
Okay, let's go back to your constituency, the National Assembly, the Senate.
Yes.
The 2018 electoral bill that went through the National Assembly 4 times is in comatose again. And 90 days has elapsed for the National Assembly to veto the president's non-assent to that bill. That bill isn't going to see the light in this 8th Assembly. What are the reasons for this?
Well, it's unfortunate that each time an opportunity comes. When I used to be in the civil rights movement, we have led a series of protests to the National Assembly. Sometimes for the delays, sometimes for their bogus allowances, and sometimes
which you are enjoying. You are enjoying that bogus allowance now. Over 40 million naira every month.
No, it's not. You have overshot the figure.
Oh, okay, with maybe 5 million, 35 million naira monthly.
Don't worry about that. If you
really,
want the
that's
figures,
really heavy.
I'll give you
how
the figure.
conscientious do you really receive that money
let me
and go home
let
with
me
it?
answer
Okay,
your
we'll
first
come
question.
to that. Yeah.
We'll come to that one first. I'm sure you'd love to hear.
Oh, very well. Nigerians would love to hear.
Yes. Now, the bill supposed to be signed by the president, and not signing that bill is a serious disservice to democracy. For failing to sign that bill, I am not just in support of that bill, but I'm a member of the Senate Committee on INEC, and I believe that there should be no sane person that should oppose or resist the use of technology for elections. And that bill clearly addressed the problem. But we couldn't act to veto or override the president for 3 reasons. The first was the timing. The timing for the elections is so short that we look at it from that very point, and the process of tabling such a motion takes a long time. Secondly, there is no possibility that any debate to override that bill can easily scale through, because none of the 2 major political parties have a clear majority. The APC is still arguing that they are the majority in the Senate, and so the PDP. And then right now, nobody can tell you in the National Assembly that this is the definite numbers of people who are in this party or that party. We have people who are defected from Sodom to Gomorrah, because when they moved from one party, they thought they would have peace, and then they started moving back. There are people who thought that they are moving out of Egypt to the promised land. They found themselves on the shores of Yemen. So you also have people who, in the daytime, they are this party, in the afternoon, they are on this party, and night time. So when you have this kind of confusion, it's so difficult. The third aspect was that the Senate president, in his own wisdom, knew very well that the balance in the Senate and the peace is fragile, and bringing such an issue forward could do a lot of damage even to the peace that we are enjoying the National Assembly. So putting all this together led to the decision, I believe, of the leadership of the National Assembly to keep the issue down, and then we move on to the elections.
Okay, I see. A kind of compromise there between, you know, the APC and PDP, particularly in the Senate there, and the leadership protecting its own position because of the tragedy of the situation in there. But let's talk about an issue that you raised, the allowance. As an activist then, money wasn't an issue for you to propagate, you know, sustainable development, fairness, equity, human rights concern for the Nigerian people. But today, Nigerians are worried. They say the institution of the legislature, you know, is overburdened with so much waste of allowances and salaries being paid. What do you say to that? If a senator is receiving as much as $35 million per month.
You said $35 million?
Naira, I beg your pardon.
Okay. First of all, it is all about the cost of governance in Nigeria. It's not about the National Assembly alone. People need to continue to ask questions. How much does it cost Nigerian to maintain the presidency with all the aides and the sub-aides, the ministers, the appointees, and then the National Assembly? You also talk of cost of governance within the states. Some states have advisors in hundreds and thousands, commissioners, and all the state members of assemblies too, they have their own aides. So now, it is not about the National Assembly. If we are serious about cutting the cost of governance or cutting our court according to our size, is by initiating fundamental reforms that would reduce this financial burden on the nation. And I think this is at the center of the call for restructuring. The legislatures themselves are product of the system. If you are a senator or member of House of Reps, as a senator, if you are earning 13.5 million per month, and then member of House of Reps 8.5 million per month, you also come from a constituency that people expect you to perform executive functions. They don't understand that lawmakers are there to make laws. They want you to build hospitals, build roads, build schools. That is what they understand.
So that's why you have your constituency projects.
Yes, we have our constituency project.
Yeah.
But if you see them, the way the constituency project is structured is about saying, what do you want in your constituency for 200 million naira? So you submit the items and the government go to execute the projects themselves. So now the issues are this. Out of every 10% you see coming to the National Assembly as a visitor, 9.5, if there is half, is about what they will get. It's not about the bills, it's not about motions, and to the very point that even people coming to National Assembly pay the security men at the gates to go in and come out. You can't pay money to go and talk about bills. If you pay 1,000 naira, you expect by the time you go there, you get 3,000 or 5,000 naira.
That is how far corruption has gone, you know, as seen too.
So you see governors with 5, 10, 15 convoys, including ambulances, federal receptive vehicles, and even fire vehicles. And then you see their own aides too, moving about with security men. So I think it is all about us accepting the fact that we are not as rich as we think, and the need for us to cut the cost of governance so that this excess or what accrues out of it can be used for our development.
Fantastic. Distinguished Senator Shehu Sani would be going on a short break. When we return, we'll look at more issues leading to Nigeria 2019 general elections. You're watching Nigeria, the road to 2019. Plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. You're welcome back to Nigeria, the road to 2019. I am Christian Ogodo. Thanks for staying with us. I say I have as my guest Senator Shehu Sani, who is the Chairman Senate Committees on Local and Foreign Debt, as well as the Vice Chairman Foreign Affairs Committee. Senator, let's look at the general elections. Less than 40 days to go, and INEC has ruled out its guidelines for the elections. It has come up with a voters register of over 80 million Nigerians registered, even though we don't get as much as 30 million voters in each election. What is your party satisfied with the guidelines so far?
Well, as far as the guidelines are concerned, we are satisfied with it as long as they will be implemented, because what you have on paper is different most times with what you see on the ground. If the institution of INEC will abide by its own rules, then we will have credible elections. But it's also dependent on other agencies that are not under the control of INEC, like the police now. When we have, if the police decides to be impartial and work towards credible elections without taking side of the government, certainly we will have a peaceful country after the elections, yes.
And some people, well, the whole situation is thawing down now. People kicking against the issue of Amina Zakare in the, control room, and INEC coming out to say, look, we aren't going to transmit the election results electronically because it's not captured in the law. So they are still going to use the manual transmission system. What are your fears about this?
Well, the opposition has the right to raise issues that appears to be gray in terms of the conduct of the elections. If you don't make noise before the elections, you will not send a clear message to those who may have the intention of influencing or manipulating the elections. So it is a right. It's their right to point at what needs to be cleared, and when they point at, like the way they did, then it is the INEC or the government that should respond to convince the opposition that that is something that should not bother them. What is happening today in the country? The campaigns are not issue-based. It is about throwing mudslinging, muckraking, defaming each other, calling everybody's names of all kinds, and the issues that affect the lives and the future of the country is not on the front burner at all. So what we fail to understand is that if your candidate is the winner of the elections, he still needs the phone call and the handshake of the person he defeated for him to have that legitimacy and the peace to preside over the affairs of the state. If he couldn't get that phone call and handshake, then he will be up to trouble. No matter what comes out of it, we're going to have trouble. So what the disappointment I feel now is that the two major candidates, Muhammadu Buhari and Atiku are from northern part of Nigeria.
Do you feel disappointed about that? Does it not make the political environment much easier?
No, the disappointment I have is not because they come from the north, but the leaders of the region need to bring these two people together and said, let there be decorum in the way this campaign is moving. But this idea of calling this person a thief every day and calling the family of this person thieves, I don't think that is helpful. Because if Buhari wins, that is if he wins, he still needs Atiku to call him and to shake his hands. If there is no phone call and there is no handshake, we will be moving to another phase of crisis in the country. So I think the North will vacate power by 2023. But it is for this to either use the opportunity in the next 4 years to develop their own part of the country, or they spend it in rancor. So my disappointment has to do with the fact that if all the major candidates come from one region, some of these issues couldn't have been necessary.
Unnecessary as they may be, if the country is restructured, do you see a restructured Nigeria, tiring and deepening its democracy beyond what we are seeing now? Because democracy is not being deepened, just like you noted in the campaigns on the issues, that they want to feed Nigerians with.
Well, from what I've seen, it is not restructuring will continue to be an issue for academic discourse and debates among being thrown to the public by the ruling political elites. It usually comes up when election is near, and when a government fully settles, then it will be preoccupied by other issues, and then it will now be a discourse for the civil society and the media. Is not going to be an issue for people in the political field on the front line. So, but what is fundamental is that we have to restructure this country and address its political, social, and economic problems so that each and every part of the country can develop and give its people that autonomy for them to be able to move according to their peculiarity and environment. But the way we are moving, we have not done anything. If you look at the campaign manifesto of Nigerian politicians in 1958, it is still about roads, about hospitals, about schools, about empowerment, and it is still what we are having now. And if you go through all these things here, you will see that the problem has not been solved. So if we continue to maintain a country where every month governors move into Abuja to collect check and go back, for how long can we sustain this country? And from 1980 to date, it is all about oil. Nigeria's economy remains about oil. The budget is about oil benchmarks.
But it wasn't so in the first republic.
It wasn't so. We are still feeding on the resources of people from Niger Delta. Why should one part of the country continue to support and sustain the economy of a nation? We have potentials, we have lands, we have resources, we have so many things that we can do. But the existing arrangement and system has made it impossible. If you can move from any part of the state to collect your check in Abuja, you don't see the need to exploit your resources and build on ideas within your own territory to make life better for your people. So this checkbook federalism is our problem. And we have to do something about it.
But the National Assembly too has not really helped in the acceleration of this restructuring in the self-determination in terms of economic development and the rest.
Yeah, if you are dependent,
amendment.
Yes, if you depend on the National Assembly to restructure Nigeria, you are simply wasting your time. If you depend on the president and a ruling party to restructure the country, the people of this country must send a clear message. The civil society must send a clear message to people in the position of power that this is where we are going. Last few days I tweeted something and I said the APC is promising power shift in 2023. Some said it's going to southwest and some to southeast, and the same thing with the PDP. Then I said, if you are promised power, demand for it in written. The thinking now is that the APC will hand over power to the southwest in 2023 under a gentleman agreement. And then I will ask you, where has gentleman agreement ever worked in Nigerian political plans? It could be a promise, an oral promise now, but a year or two after those who are now campaigning gets what they want, the tune will change. And there's something with the southeast. So many things, including restructuring. The ruling party, it took them a year before the election to constitute a so-called committee for restructuring. And then the report was submitted almost 4 to 5 months after. And then it was kept. And then you are told that until after we win, then we will implement it. And you'll be disappointed. So it is all about deceiving Nigeria. The ruling political elite understood the thinking, the psychology of a Nigerian. And then they use what he there cherishes so much at a very time which they can hold him to ransom to it.
So they're happy, sharing the oil wealth from the Niger Delta at the center and still being part of the national cake.
Yes, right now, a country like ours, an oil producing and oil exporting country, when people knew very well that the Minister of Finance will give them a phone call and say your check is ready, then you don't need to do anything. So this is where we are. Yeah.
Wow, it's a huge shame. Let's look at the 2019 budget. It was presented only in December. The National Assembly is on recess. It's election year in another 1.5 months. This budget seems not achievable, not doable.
Well, what I would say is that the budget is 8.2 or 3 trillion.
Yeah.
And 4 for recurrent, and then 2 for capital, and then 2 for debt services, 2 trillion. Now, we are going to return to the Senate on Tuesday, coming Tuesday, next few days. I don't think that before the elections, anything will be done about this budget. But we will debate the general principles. We will stay in the National Assembly for 2 weeks. And then from there, we proceeded
for the elections.
For the elections. So for now, I don't think that anything before February. But it's possible when we're back. Some will lose elections and some will win. And then we look at the budget and we do what we can. But I don't think that the budget is likely to be passed before the general elections. Yes.
Yeah, the unlikelihood of this too brings to mind the rancor that usually goes with the presentation of Nigeria's budget each year. The APC-led administration, which you were part of, has suffered, such delays too, even to a large extent. A member of the House of Representatives screamed blue murder about budget padding.
Well, when you talk about budget process in the National Assembly. This is something that has been on for a very long time. The budget is written by the parastatals at the ministries and then collated by the presidency and presented to us. We have a constitutional duty to go through the budget page by page,
yeah,
and see what was presented before us. We are not a photocopy machine where you simply
rubber stamp it.
Rubber stamp it and they simply tell you to go. They have to go through it. And in that process, you have to invite the heads of ministries, department, and agencies to come over and defend their budget. That takes time. But again, the pardon is not a fiction, it's true. But the pardon process begins from the executive arm of the state. For every pardon you see, there is a process to it. If a committee detected that you put the cost of a computer for $1,000 when it is $500, then the man who is going to pad will add $300 there, and it becomes $1,300. So it's an interparding between the National Assembly and the executive. The executive are padding, and then the National Assembly.
That's a very unique acronym and a unique language, interpadding.
Yes.
So it does exist.
It does exist, of course. The issues raised are genuine. But what we need to understand is that the presentation is as if those on the executive side are saints and those on the side of the parliament are sinners. But I think there is a need in order to curtail this. Progress has been made. In those days, you heard that before budgets are passed, monies are demanded and monies are given. But now, such things don't exist. So there is no excuse for the delays in passage of the budget. But what we need to understand is that if these issues were discussed privately between the leadership of National Assembly and the executive arm before the presentations, we couldn't have all these problems here. But the problems faced by the Buhari administration on the issues of budget is a microcosm of the problem that the executive arm faced with the National Assembly. Political issues, issues of leadership, and other things, yes.
All right, that's a very great revelation there, and it's gone into Nigerian lexicon again, into budget padding. But let me ask you this. If you consider the plethora of political parties in the scene, you would agree that some are really non-starters, that the contest is between the two major political parties, the PDP and APC.
Yeah.
Who are you sticking out your neck for between President Buhari, the incumbent, and Atiku Abubakar to carry the day?
Well, I come from a political party that we decided not to have a presidential candidate. So all our members are at liberty to choose whatever candidate they want to choose. And I will excuse you to allow it to my own privacy. And when I go to my polling booth, I'm going to vote the president that I want.
I'm sure your party, if you've taken a resolution, a stance that you're not presenting a presidential candidate for the elections, means that the PRP has a preferred candidate between President Buhari and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is running under the PDP flags.
Well, the national leader of our party is Balarabe Musa. And in his own, what he said is that the two candidates are not a solution to the problems of this country, but he prefers to tilt towards President Muhammad Buhari. So, but he is a national leader, and that is his own position. But we all have our own individual
with a party that has ideology. Are you going to say is it not what the national leader says that you're going to counter?
No, but if we wanted to do that, we could have our own candidate. But we left each and every member to decide on where to go.
And the national leader has pointed the way forward.
That is his own.
For PRP.
That is his own personal opinion. He said. I'm just telling you his own personal.
Where are you going? Where does the compass point for you? I know you've been to Daura, you know, to give the president support.
Let me tell you the two side of issues. Is that Buhari lived for over 4 decades in Kaduna. So I didn't know him because of politics, and he has been a person who I can vouch for his integrity as a military man. Not issues that are happening today. And secondly, for Atiku, during the struggle against military dictatorship, he was in the forefront. When I was in jail with the late Shehu Sani, he has been supportive of us, those people who are in prison at that very time. And he identified with our cause during the struggle. So each and every one of them have his own quality. So as far as I'm concerned, my own personal decision will be made when I have my own ballot. Maybe I will screenshot it and send it to you.
Oh, okay. Let me. Well, telephones are not going to be allowed in there. You know that's some of the guidelines. Let me quickly ask you this. It's going to be the final question, I want to believe. Can you evaluate for us, you know, with your experience, region by region, which of the 2 major political parties will take which?
Okay, that is 6 geopolitical.
Absolutely.
Zone. Okay, well, in the northwest, I believe that a comfortable majority will vote for Buhari. And in the southwest, if you look at the Ekiti and Osun elections, you cannot be sure. So there will be some form of perhaps 55-45 between the APC and the PDP. The southeast and the south-south is a PDP territory. The north-central, as a result of issues that had happened, the violence, the herdsmen attacks, the killings, you can see APC states that have turned to PDP. That is a fact. And as for the northeast, the dilemma for them is that they have a president who has done a lot for them in terms of addressing the problem of insurgency, setting up the Northeast Development Commission, and pushing the insurgents still to the borderline, and doing a lot in terms of humanitarian crisis in that region. But now they also have one of their own who is a candidate, and they have never, since Tafawa Balewa, they have never produced a president. So that is a question for them to decide, whether to go to a president that has been able to, a certain extent, address their issues, or to go to one of their own that has never. Most of people who preside over the affair are from the northwest. Northeast has never produced a president. So these are the issues which, to my own thinking, are my little understanding of the voting pattern for 2019.
And generally, if you aggregate it, is it going to be too close to call?
I don't know. Yes, I say I don't know. Because the way things are moving, if you look at 2015, you know very well that President Muhammad Buhari is on a comfortable lead. But now, the crises that have come over in the last 3 years, which led to some states that were controlled by the APC, moving to PDP.
Okay, let me take you back to your state very quickly.
Yeah.
Will the incumbent governor El-Rufai win in Kaduna State?
In a free and fair election, he's going to lose the election. That's it. That's it.
All right, thanks very much, Chair. Distinguished Senator Shehu Sani, representing Kaduna Central, am I right?
Yes.
In the National Assembly, is now with the PRP recontesting for that senatorial district. Is the Chairman, Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debts, as well as the Vice Chairman Foreign Affairs Committee. A very warm appreciation for
Thank you.
coming on Nigeria 2019. Thanks
you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
And well, that's it for this edition of Nigeria, the road to 2019. Join us again for a fresh edition of the program. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, it's goodbye and thanks for watching.